To the Let Me Bend Your Ear podcast. My name is Frank. I'm the host of the show. I discuss and review movies new and old. You can watch this show on YouTube or Facebook under the Let Me Bend Your Ear podcast. You can listen wherever you get your podcast. Please rate and review the show on the platform of your choice that you listen to or watch the show on. You can email the show at bendyourearpodcast@gmail.com. And if you can, please visit the website at letmebendyourear.com. All the audio podcast episodes are available there. And of course, you can watch the video version on YouTube and or Facebook. Now, I'm going live tonight. Happy Friday night to everybody. I haven't done a live show in a long time. I'm going to try to do more lives to try to interact with people more if they want to on here. Obviously, if you're not watching the show live, you can listen to this podcast, again, wherever you get your podcast. It's available on Spotify and all the major podcasting platforms. So feel free just to go to your platform of choice and type in the Let Me Bend Your Ear podcast, or you can simply Google it and you can see the various locations where it's available. So again, I want to go live more often. It's been a few weeks since I've recorded an episode. I just haven't had time. And usually doing these lives are quicker because I can actually get the turnaround time to get it up onto the audio feed quicker. And of course, the live video is available now if you're watching it, and it'll be available after I'm done. And you can watch it at your leisure on YouTube or Facebook. So again, thank you for joining me. So today I'm going to actually review a film from 2023, and it is The Iron Claw. And this is a particular film that received a lot of critical acclaim last year. And I just didn't really have a desire to see it, even though it did get some good reviews. And this is a true story about the Von Erich family, who was wrestling in the late 70s, early 80s. And I'll get into more of the plot in a minute. So my kind of exposure to wrestling is kind of funny because I grew up in Florida. And I grew up on Florida Championship Wrestling, which was hosted at the time on television on Saturday nights by Gordon Soley. And if you are a fan of wrestling, or if you know wrestling from at least the 70s to early 80s, and I'm by no means an expert on wrestling, but I do know that the wrestling federations were regional, and it was kind of, balkanized that way, and people would go around the country and kind of wrestle in different regional companies. So in Florida, it was there. So the wrestlers that I grew up with when I was a kid in the 80s my favorite was Dusty Rhodes, American Dream. Then you had Kevin Sullivan, and you would have some of the bigger wrestlers come through as well. And of course, when the WWF in the mid 80s got huge, of course you have your stars from that time, Macho Man, Roddy Piper, Hulk Hogan, etc. So the Von Erich family story, which is the basis for the Iron Claw, I really didn't know these wrestlers at all. Never heard of the family, didn't know that they were a huge deal in wrestling. So they primarily wrestled out of Texas. So that's where the family patriarch who started the WCCW, which is World Class Championship Wrestling. So that's Fritz Von Erich, who was a wrestler himself. And the Iron Claw was his finishing move, which hence the title of the film. So he has 5 sons with his wife, and gets the sons into the family business. So that's kind of the background of the story. So the eldest son, or not the eldest son, actually, the second to the eldest, I believe, which is Kevin Von Erich, is kind of the brother that Fritz is trying to prop up and get him to become a superstar, because Fritz was never able to win a world championship, and he wants his sons to do that. And obviously, he's running the business of the federation in Texas, and he's obviously trying to provide for his family as well. So I finally ended up watching this movie because I was actually flying home, making a cross-country trip from Phoenix back to Florida, and the movie was available. So I was like, you know what? I'm captive. Let me go ahead and watch it, since I had heard good things about it. So I checked it out. So this is a family drama regarding the Von Erich family. So as Kevin is becoming more popular, you get introduced to his character, and then you have his brother Kerry, played by Jeremy Allen White, who I think people most know from The Bear. I haven't seen that show, but I know he's famous from there. And I believe he was on the TV show Shameless as well. And then you've got Harris Dickinson as David Von Erich. So there is a scene early in the film where Kevin is in a match and he gets suplexed down onto the hard concrete and is really hurt and kind of stays down for a while. And his brother comes in and kind of cuts a great promo. And the father kind of moves Kevin to the side and kind of try to promote David to be the next one. So the thing that's great about this movie, and I'll say it a bunch of times through this review, is it's a film about wrestling, but it's not a wrestling movie in the sense that now there's plenty of things in there, and there's fun references to wrestlers from that time, including Dusty Rhodes. So if you're a fan of wrestling, it's fun to hear those names, and you'll see later in the film Ric Flair, which of course everybody knows, Nature Boy, is portrayed in this film as well. But that's really kind of a backdrop to the family drama. So the dynamic in the family between Fritz, his wife, and the sons is basically Fritz sees his sons, not that he doesn't love them, but he sees them as a product. And he says a line in the film about their positioning in the family, because you know that joke about, when you have more than one kid, who's your favorite one? And he's basically blunt, that position can change. You can be my number one today, this guy will be my number one next week. So there's really a lot of interplay regarding that, and basically that's really about who's doing the best and who has the most potential to be a world champion, which is what Fritz wants for his family, not so much for the actual son that would do it, but really more for the family. And you've got Maura Tierney, the great actress that plays Doris, his wife. So the dynamic is great between the brothers as well. Let me start with Zac Efron performance-wise. So I know there was a big deal made about his physical transformation for this role, and it's pretty impressive. Like he looks, and I know there's been some controversy about whether he did steroids, I don't know, but he is massively different. He looks different. His face is puffy. He just looks like a big wrestling dude. But beside of that, to physically embody the character, his performance, I think, in the film is fantastic. Like I said, I know nothing about the Von Erichs or about the particular personalities of the sons, because I never watched them wrestle. And I really didn't know of that family. But the way it's portrayed in the film, Kevin is a very soft-spoken, introspective kind of person, and he's really, the most important thing, and not just to him, but to the rest of the brothers, which is the touching part of this movie, is despite kind of the dysfunction that's in the family between the father and the sons, all the sons are all bonded together, and they love each other, and they care about each other, and they have each other's backs, even though each of them goes through their own specific struggles. And that's one of the strongest parts of the movie. But Kevin is kind of, he's in it, he's wrestling, he's really doing it for the family. He wants to win, he wants to be popular, and I think he wants to obviously make money, but it's not the most important thing in his life. It's really Fritz's, ambition and Fritz's kind of determination to elevate the family and elevate his wrestling company to be one of the world's best. So that's really the bulk of the movie. The other thing in this movie that runs throughout, and I had heard it even before I watched the film, and if you know their story, none of this will be a surprise. This is a family that has dealt with, and it's crazy, it's unimaginable tragedies, and literally it's one after the other in this film. It's one of these movies where if you didn't know this was a true story, you would be like, this is unbelievable. Like, this is not believable. This story is not believable. People have tragedy in their life, but there's no way that one family would have this much and it would feel realistic. But this is actually what happened. Kind of one of the unbelievable things about this film, and I found it out after I watched it, was they actually took out a son. There was another son that was not even portrayed in this film, and that son also met with tragedy. So I think the director, Sean Durkin, made a decision that he was like, I've got enough tragedy in here. I'm not adding another character that suffers that. That's how much it is in this film. Now, and it's a lot, and it's a heavy drama, but again, the acting all the way around is fantastic. Like I said, the dynamic between the brothers is probably my favorite part of the film. And you have a brother that comes in. He's actually eligible for the Olympics in 1980, and he has to come back, which is Kerry. And of course, if you know Olympic history, that was the year that the United States boycotted the Olympics because they were in because of the Russian invasion of Afghanistan. So the Olympics were in Moscow, and the United States boycotted. So of course that means none of the athletes could go. So of course Kerry was unable to compete. So then he came back home and then joined the family business of being in the wrestling game. So that's the narrative push of the film. Kevin meets his fiance, meets a girl, gets married. They start to have kids, and the family dynamic with Kevin and his kids, and of course with Fritz and him, gets strained as this goes by, as the family is withstanding these tragedies that are occurring. And then Kevin finds out that his dad, may or may have not financially been on the up and up with him running the business. And another string of things that go through this movie is Fritz is convinced that their family is cursed because of these tragedies that happen. So one of the things in the story is the Von Erich is not even their real name. Their real name is I think it's Atkinson. If I remember right, I've got to look it up here. But Fritz believed that they were cursed. So they changed their name. It was, Atkinson. Atkinson was their real name. So with the tragedies that happened in the family, Fritz was convinced in a real way that they were cursed and that something bad happening around the corner was going to happen. And to the point where, and I think that really affected the dynamic in the family. So basically it's really an exaggerated version or an inflated version of the other shoe dropping. So I think Fritz lived in a constant fear of not being able to achieve something great in a short amount of time because of the tragedies that have befallen his family. So that is a very deep undercurrent in this film, to the point where it gets down to to the sons, especially Kevin, who is anytime an issue comes up or something goes wrong, he thinks it's just a part of the curse. So that's deeply embedded in the family. And the other dysfunction in this family that's pervasive is Fritz's inability to emotionally connect with his sons, which is a tragedy. So he loves his sons, he loves his family, but when any of his sons are struggling with something personal, something to do with wrestling, his wife implores him to do something about it, and he just doesn't do it. He just doesn't either have the ability to do it, the desire to do it, or maybe a combination of both. And Fritz is played by Holt McCallany, who's a great actor. I know him from the David Fincher Netflix series Mindhunter, which he's the FBI agent there, profiler. And he's in this film as Fritz, the patriarch, and he's fantastic in this movie. You can see he's hard on his kids. He makes his kids work hard. He's that old school, guy that was raised in the 40s and 50s and 60s, and he protects his family, but he's very hard on his kids. And I think, like a lot of fathers from that time, it's just the emotional connection with his sons. It's just something that just didn't happen, even if the sons were looking for it. But like I said, the thing that kind of prevailed over that was the closeness that these brothers had with each other. Because in a lot of these family dramas, not that they didn't have any conflicts or of course, not that everything was perfect, but what I loved, like I said, one of the things I really loved about this film is despite the dysfunction, again, with the family, within the dynamics of the family, those brothers, as portrayed in the film, really, really loved each other. And you could see it, and it shows through in the performances, and of course, the script and everything. And I really connected to that aspect of it a lot. And that's why, like I said, Iron Claw is set in the world of wrestling, but it's really a family drama film, which, when those are done well, are very entertaining and very riveting to watch. And I think this film does that. I understand the positive reviews that it got, so I'm definitely was glad that I watched it. I'm a big fan of it, and I highly recommend it. I'm going to go ahead and give the Iron Claw, I'm going to give it 4 stars out of 5. So on that scale, that's a movie that I would watch again. Like I said, I truly enjoyed it. The performances down the line were great. Like I said, you have Zac Efron, Jeremy Allen Wright, you have Harris Dickinson, Maura Tierney, Stanley Stamos, or excuse me, Stanley Simmons in the film as well. And like I said, you get to see, if you're a wrestling fan, you get Ric Flair, you get Harley Race, which is, like I said, some old school wrestlers that you'd have to really go back in time and be kind of my age to know those wrestlers. And it's kind of fun to see that. So from the wrestling angle, if you're a wrestling fan, I think you would enjoy it as well. But like I said, even if you're not, and you would really enjoy this film, like I said, and enjoy it in quotes, because like I said, it's a heavy drama, and like I said, this family, it's heartbreaking, the tragedy that this family dealt with. And at the end of the movie, you kind of get, the epilogue with things on the screen telling you about, what's happened in the aftermath of things that have occurred in the movie. But again, it was very, very riveting, very moving. The drama was very well done, and like I said, it was a story. It was an incredible story. Like I said, if you didn't know it was true, it would be unbelievable what this family has gone through. But again, what I took from it was and I think what made the tragedy even more heartbreaking is you can see the closeness that these brothers had for each other, and the most important thing in their lives was each other. And I think those brothers, exemplified that, and like I said, had each other's backs. And you have a lot of movies with that, like I said, that portray brothers, and a lot of times those movies have a dramatic tension where the brothers don't like each other, or they did, and then there's a falling out, and then maybe they get back together in the end, as far as a relationship is concerned, a brotherly relationship. But here, the bond between the brothers is constant throughout the film. Like I said, they go through their rough patches because of the nature of what's going on in their family, between the wrestling and the personal tragedies and the setbacks that they have. So obviously there's tension there in that respect, but the love is never sacrificed for all those things that they are meeting as challenges. So again, I highly recommend The Iron Claw. It's streaming now. I think it's on Max, I believe. But if you have not seen it, I would definitely check it out. Again, it's directed by Sean Durkin. I've not seen any of his other work, so I'm not familiar with his work other than this particular film. But I was a big fan of it. I enjoyed it a lot, like I said, with great performances. Again, I'm giving The Iron Claw 4 stars out of 5, so definitely check that out. So I want to end the show before I sign off. Again, I'm going to try to do more of these probably live. It'll make it easier for me to turn around, because again, I'm having too many gaps between shows, and I really don't want to do that. And when I do these lives, of course, if you see me on YouTube or see me on Facebook, feel free to come on, say hi in the chat. I can bring you on if you want, or if you want to just make a comment about the movie I'm reviewing, or just chit chat, just let me know. That's always available when I'm on live. But of course, you can listen to this episode when I post it in the audio feed, and then of course you can watch this show at your convenience on YouTube or on Facebook. So if you could, I'm really looking to up my subscribers. I'm up actually over 100 subscribers on the YouTube channel, which is great. So if you can subscribe if you haven't done so, you'll get notifications when the show goes live. Even if you prefer to listen to it on the audio, if you can at least click on there on subscribe. Like I said, I want to get my subscriber base up. If you could do that, that would be great. And if you follow the show wherever you listen to it, if you can rate and review again, I would really appreciate that. That helps the impact of the show, and gives the show a little more exposure for people looking for a movie podcast. So if you could do that, I would appreciate it as well. You can find me on X. The handle is @BendYourEarPod. That's also the handle for Instagram. And like I said, the Facebook page is Let Me Bend Your Ear. And of course, the YouTube channel again is Let Me Bend Your Ear Podcast. So if you could do that, that'd be great. If you want to email me regarding movie reviews or to talk movies, the email is bendyourearpodcast@gmail.com. The easiest way to get hold of me, email, of course, I'll respond. But follow me on X again @BendYourEarPod. I'm always on there chatting movies with people. If you have suggestions for movies for me to review, or any thoughts or feedback on the episodes, please do that. And of course, if you want to find all of the episodes, you can get them on the audio feed. But if you want to go straight to the website, I highly recommend you go there as well. The website is letmebendyourear.com. So all the shows all the way back to episode 1 are available there. If you want to, you can download them directly from the website if you don't use a podcasting platform. But again, I want to thank everybody that listens and watches. Again, it's been very heartening over the last few months to average. It's great, because I remember when I started this podcast, and this goes out to other podcasters as well that are just starting. I would, get maybe, like 10 downloads a month, which I'm not complaining. Like I said, I do this for my enjoyment. I love talking movies. And like I said, the only thing I wish I could do more of is interview people, which I've done from time to time, and I'll try to do it. It's just, it's even hard enough to do this solo, to find the time to record myself, much less the logistics of finding somebody to record with and discuss a particular movie, and then setting up the time to do that. And it's usually because of my schedule, not because of theirs. My schedule is crazy, and it's hard for me to get this time. So I'm still going to continue to try to do that when it's feasible for me. And like I said, I love having conversations as well. But I enjoy doing this solo too, and I like to talk movies. So I want to say again, as I was saying a minute ago, to get to a point where I started, where it was maybe 5 to 10 downloads a month, where now I'm getting, and I know for bigger podcasts this is nothing numbers, but again, I'm not focused on that. I'm just focused on the fact that people really check it out, whether however many. I'm appreciative of that. But to get like a couple of hundred downloads in a month is phenomenal. And I really want to thank everybody that listens and that has downloaded the show. So thank you for that. The numbers have gone up over the last, 5 or 6 months, even though I haven't been as frequent as I want to be. So hopefully that means that I've got some regular listeners to the podcast, because the numbers are being relatively consistent, which is great. So that's the thing that I'm really happy about. Not so much the number of people that are listening, which it's growing slowly, which is great, but more so that number is staying consistent. So even if it's consistently where it's at, I want to try to grow it more. But the fact is, it's been consistent the last few months, and I can't tell you how appreciative I am of that. And always let you know that. So I know anytime I see that, I want you to know, as listeners and as watchers, that I'm super grateful that you're checking the show out and hopefully enjoying it. And again, if you know someone that's looking for a new movie podcast to listen to, they're out of stuff to listen to in the regular queue, please have them check out Let Me Bend Your Ear podcast. And if you're a fan, try to spread the word, like send on social media. If I post, if you can retweet it or share it, that'd be great. Or just tell your friends about it and have them check it out. So again, you can email the show at bendyourearpodcast@gmail.com. But like I said, the best way to reach me is on X. The handle is @bendyourearpod. So again, thank you so much for listening and or watching the show. So I really appreciate it. So again, I'm going to wrap this live up here with my review of The Iron Claw. I'm giving it 4 stars out of 5. And I should be back soon with another episode. Hopefully we'll get these rolling and be more frequent